Hi, everyone. Before this episode starts, I would like to put a trigger warning on here as we will be talking about some very sensitive topics today, such as sex with minors, sexual abuse, and sex traumas. So if these matters trigger you, please consider skipping this podcast. I will have the season finale on next week, but as I said, trigger warning for anybody who is affected by sex traumas such as sexual abuse or sex with minors or anything on that nature that can trigger you. This podcast may not be for you, and I don't want your day to be ruined as today is Love Day. I love you guys so, so much. Love you. Hi, everyone. This is Stassi. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here today. Happy Love Day, everyone. Oh my God, it's Love Day. Like, how is it also already February 14th? Like, I was just
Mhm.
screaming at my boss. Like, it was Groundhog Day. Felt like
Oh
Groundhog
yeah.
Day was yesterday.
The year is just plugging along because I think everyone collectively does not want this year to happen. So we're just kind of tr trying to push along, get right out of it.
I don't. I'm sure you've seen because, like, all like our lives are just online.
Yeah.
We're mirroring the same year of 2020.
Hmm.
We've
Hmm.
started with tick one, actually two ticks, as the
Hmm.
Chiefs won the Super Bowl
Hmm.
against the 49ers, which happened 4 years ago. If March 20th shit hits the fan, guys, like it's it's been a pleasure. Um,
Oh,
but
that's
I'm very excited to be here today to be talking about a very special episode of Wicked Whims. I
mm.
know I said in the previous episode with the Daniel Bills that this would be the season finale. However, that interview was filmed in June. So life has changed a lot since June. So
Absolutely.
the season finale will actually be next Wednesday, and I'm very excited to finally wrap up this chapter with a very special announcement that I will be making next Thursday as well for what season three and what the middle of the season will hold. So I'm very excited to have Gons here today. Gons, welcome.
Hi, hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
It's honestly, it's an honor. It's actually the first time that me and you have ever just done
Mm.
something.
No, that's true. That's true. We
I
usually add
know.
Nard into Disney, yeah.
I know. I had to come with notes today.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm really excited. Typically my content is very PC and I don't tend to talk about gameplay and the stuff kind of behind the Sims. So I'm actually really excited to explore this topic.
Well, I'm very, very excited to talk about Wicked Whims, as I've said on this podcast at least 100 times now of my one experience with Wicked Whims and how I was like, that's boobs. And I don't know what to do. But before we dive in and talk about Wicked Whims,
Mhm.
Gons, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Absolutely. So, my name is Gonz. I am a Sims content creator. I cover, Sims 1, 2, 3, and 4, although I will say I cover a much larger focus on 4 nowadays. I like to focus on lore and townies, and I like to give a couple of interesting hot takes about things. A little bit like how I think Taylor Swift might have ruined the Super Bowl, but I'm not going to get into that with you because then you'll get mad
Oh, I will say,
at me.
Taylor Swift fans are like the top like 8% people listening to this podcast. So Swifties, I do not feel the same way. Her presence at the Super Bowl made Travis Kelsey win.
That's true. That's true enough. I'm being silly.
Well, Gons, why don't you lead the
Mhm.
way? Let's talk about Wicked Whims. Let's
Yeah,
get started.
absolutely. So when I originally talked about this idea and talked a little bit about what I thought we could do, one quote came to mind. Now, this quote is often attributed to Oscar Wilde, but again, to be a little pedantic, we're not actually sure who said it. But the quote is that everything in the world is about sex. Okay. And I think that at the end of the day, that is the most real thing that we've ever talked about, right? The first thing that happened when the internet was invented was porn. Like
Yes.
that was straight up the first thing that happened. It seems like anytime we have an opportunity to expand humanity, we choose to expand it with sex,
Mhm.
right? So I realized that this is a topic that I think is a little taboo, but to an extent, I don't necessarily think it should be. Okay. And sex in video games is not a new thing, right? We've been seeing that we've actually seen, video games about sex and then sex incorporated into games for so many years now. I think probably the best example would be Lara Croft, when, the original sex icon of video
Oh,
games.
100%.
you know and she kind of made everyone think, oh my God, like, video game people are sexy. And people used to like think that there were, and I might be aging myself a bit here, but people used to actually have codes online that, like, oh, if you beat Lara Croft's final level in this amount of time, she'll take her shirt off and stuff like that, right? All very misogynistic, but still very much in place, right?
Hmm.
And we can go even farther back. In fact, perhaps the first ever real like tease that ever existed was actually in the Metroid games for the Nintendo, where it's revealed that Samus, the main character, is a woman by the fact that she takes off her armor and she's in a bikini if you 100% the game. Again,
Huh.
super misogynistic, but there you go. Again, indication that sex has been a real factor here. Now, I will say that in The Sims as a franchise, right? We've always had the concept. Well, we've had the concept of woohoo,
Yep.
right? Sims 1 didn't really have anything like that. In my research, I managed to find indications of like mods or like repackaging of like nude characters and things like that. But there wasn't really like a standalone, um, nude mod for The Sims 1. The Sims 2 did indeed have some nude mods and everything like that, but again, it wasn't actually until The Sims 3 that we got a real like sex mod, and that was called Kinky World. And I don't know if that name is familiar to you, but Kinky World for The Sims 3 came out, and it was actually released. And we're going to talk about this when we get into to Wicked Whims proper, which I'm kind of building to. But there is a website that is probably famous for quite literally being the bastion of all things sex in video games. And that's called loverslab.com. Okay.
Okay.
And loverslab.com is a website that, again, NSFW for anyone that goes visit it, because it is effectively a porn site. So let's just be fair before you click on it. All right. But it is a website where you can find any and all modifications to video games for the purposes of pornography. I mean, we're talking Sims 3, Sims 4, Skyrim, Baldur's Gate, like every video game that you can think of that has modding support is featured in Lover's Lab for this particular thing. And Wicked Whims is no exception, which we'll talk about in a moment. But that was really the site that was responsible for perpetuating this content sharing, right? And then, of
Hmm.
course, the Sims 4 comes out, and then Wicked Whims is created in 2016, right?
Okay.
Now, Wicked Whims releases and kind of revolutionizes what like sex is in The Sims. Because before, you had the ability to remove the pixels from your character. And if you remove the pixels, you're basically a Barbie doll in The Sims. Like you don't really have any parts or anything like that, you know?
Yes.
Um, and then there also had mods in which you were able to edit the mesh and you could be nude and things like that, of course, right? And speaking of, I think this is an interesting question to pose to your viewers, because I've noticed that there's kind of like um a meter as far as like what we accept as decency. Because I know some people who will say, "Oh, I absolutely don't want to see them naked," and other people who say, "Oh, I absolutely want them to see them naked, but it's not a sexual thing. It's just that if I take my clothes off, they should be naked. That's like the natural thing."
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And then there are others, of course, who go into Wicked Whims and like, "No, I want to get crazy." You know, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the whole thing. Now, the individual who created Wicked Whims, Turbo Driver,
Hmm.
um, he kind of, actually, I'm saying he, and I actually don't know if it is a he. I'm being kind of sexist there. I don't know their gender or their sex, but they created Wicked Whims, and they also created Wonderful Whims,
Hmm.
which is a safe for work version of Wicked Whims, where you want to be able to perform the acts, but you don't necessarily want to see them, right? Um, and he also created another amazing mod that I really recommend everybody called Immersive Farts.
Sorry, that's incredible. Um, Wicked Whims, Wonderful Whims, amazing. Immersive farts. Now I'm
Yes.
like, hold on. I'm sorry, guys. Immersive farts. Please tell me it's a mod just for farts.
Yes, it is a standalone mod that introduces a level of immersion with farts. Okay, so the idea is that so this is funny, but like this mod, and this is a serious mod, but it has you spontaneously fart, like literally you could be working out or woohooing or whatever, and you'll fart. Again, super realistic.
Super
Uh,
realistic.
exactly. People will react to your fart. So, like, if you have a smelly fart, then people around you will hear it and things like that. Your mood is affected, or people's moods are affected if you smell farts and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the most famous mod in the world. It only has 20,000 downloads, but I just thought it was really funny that Turbo Driver actually in his like Twitter, again, their Twitter bio, has creator of Wicked Whims, Wonderful Whims, Immersive Farts.
Now I want to get him on the show, not to talk about Wicked and Wonderful, Whimsical Whims or whatever the other. I want
Yeah.
to know. Do they like do women queef as do our female Sims queef? Okay,
Oh God, I wonder. I actually don't know if that's a it's that that's a thing, but I do
right?
wonder. Oh my
Okay,
goodness, yeah.
you add that into Wicked.
Exactly, exactly. Oh my God, that needs to be a thing. But so Wicked Whims originally, it started as basically a mod
Hmm.
that served as kind of like a framework where you were able to insert animations into it. And I think that was probably one of the smartest decisions Turbo Driver could have done
Hmm.
because they could have packed Wicked Whims with like animations and then bundled it out and made it a standalone. But instead, they built a framework that said, you feel free to make any animation you want. I have built this framework to load it in and you can do whatever you want with it. Okay. This was also an incredibly intelligent marketing decision because it meant that they were able to separate themselves from the actual sex act in the
Yes.
sense that they created the framework, but they don't market anything. And if you, in fact, if you go to the website, there's no pictures of like poses or sexual innuendo. It's just Wicked Whims download. And if you download Wicked Whims by itself, nothing happens. Like it's just on your computer. You have to then go to other artists from other websites in order to download their animations to
Mhm.
use in Wicked Whims, right? So again, it's a very kind of unique way to kind of work around that for lack of a better word negative stigma, which obviously shouldn't exist. Now I feel like before we get further into the conversation about Wicked Whims, we do need to address, you know, the topic of sex,
Yes.
right? Because there's a lot of individuals, and in fact, I made a video that kind of mentioned Wicked Whims, right?
Hmm.
And the comments were just like, "Oh, I don't use that," or like, I have a family. I don't like it. You could very clearly see the divide between, "Oh, I don't like this kind of content. It's not for me," and disparaging against it. Because if you don't like it, because that's not your thing, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay? That's totally fair. But if you were to say like, "Oh, that's weird," or "That's messed up," or "I think that that's gross," or "I think that that's impure," or whatever, I feel like that's unfair,
Yeah.
right? And I think that The Sims at the end of the day is a game in which we live vicariously through. Okay.
Yeah.
I've made the comment before, Stasi, that I believe that simmers as a whole all have something in us that makes us want to like play a simulation for some reason, like whether that's to relive some kind of like life decision, like, oh, we didn't choose to go into this career, so now we want to see what life would have been like if we did.
Hmm.
Or I don't make enough money to do this, so I like to build a house and build my dream house that I could maybe one day have. Or even so far, like I am not um confident enough to do this, and I'd like to do it in The Sims so I can experience that. You know, it kind of like escapism. For without getting too like negative about it.
Oh, absolutely. And storytellers as well, who have
Yes,
always
exactly.
had stories that they've had, like been writing their entire life and have had
Mhm.
no way to publish them. The Sims is
Exactly.
allowing them to create it on their own
Exactly.
and publish it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that sexual expression very much is another part of it,
Hmm.
because and we'll talk about this when we talk about the creators of the Wicked Whims content, but if you look at a lot of the Wicked Whims content, like yes, you have standard sexual acts and sexual poses, but then you get into much more, for lack of a better word, hardcore animation, right? We're
Yes.
dealing with bondage, consensual like rape and assault or whatever.
Hmm.
um and I know consensual rape is probably not a word, but I hope you know what I mean, where it's like forcing, but like intending to be like okay between two people,
No,
right?
that is a huge aspect of
Yeah,
women's porn fantasy is
yeah,
big powerful man picks small dainty girl
right,
and likes feeling that power. I mean, Fifty
exactly, yeah,
Shades of Grey
exactly,
is a perfect example of it. Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
I know what you meant, but for anybody
Mm,
listening, that's
yeah.
kind of what it is.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And um, really, at the end of the day, it is a safe way for individuals to be able to experience or live that out,
yes.
or at least try it out. You know what I mean? Like they could just go, you know what, I want to watch this,
Hmm.
and I want to see how it goes. I want to see what it makes me feel like. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It could also be great ways to express your sexuality if you ask yourself like, oh, I wonder if I'm into X and Y, and if
Hmm.
you play it out in The Sims, and you go, you know what, that interests me or whatever. Like it's an aspect that obviously I think is there, right? Um, and again, a lot of people that I speak to um, use Wicked Whims not so much as like porn, meaning that they don't necessarily use it for the extent of like self pleasure, right?
Yeah.
They use it because in their mind, that is an extent of the human experience,
Yes.
which is that if you meet someone in the game, you don't necessarily want to have it be completely cookie cutter where you hold hands and you go to the movies. It's like, no, you have a very passionate night that ends with very passionate sex, and it can get kind of crazy. Maybe that's to some people, that's their real life that they want to
Hmm.
emulate, or perhaps they want to emulate a life that they wish they could have, right? So I think it's a wonderful tool for people to be able to experience that. Now, that being said, the Wicked Whims is a framework that gets extraordinarily complicated and has everything for everybody.
Yes.
All right. Now, I don't know exactly how far your listeners or you have delved into Wicked Whims, but you can quite literally set for any sim you have things such as being into bondage,
Yep.
being squirters, being like you setting every like kink humanly possible is set on your sim. So like you can actually get really detailed as to what your sim likes, right?
Yes.
Um, Now, I think that, and you tell me what you think about this, Stasi,
Sure.
but I think what I think the one critique I have about Wicked Whims is that while it does introduce sex as a framework,
Yes.
it literally just introduces sex as a framework, which means that the game quite literally sets it up so that, or the mod, I should say, where you just meet somebody and then you just start having sex. Like there's no framework buildup of like romancing or attraction or anything like that. Like you just have sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And and when you have Wicked Whims installed with autonomy, you could literally be playing the game and people will just start having sex all over. Like just randomly having sex. You just like knock on the door and you just start having sex with the mailman. You know what I mean? It's a little unrealistic. Life isn't quite like that. We
What?
haven't reached that we haven't reached that level of hedonism, Stassi. All right, we're not quite there. All right, but
So when I go get my Amazon package, I'm not gonna fuck the delivery
yeah,
guy to
exactly.
get my
And no,
package?
no,
What?
unfortunately, that idealistic world is not quite there. All right, but really that has been a complaint. And again, you can modify
Mhm.
autonomy and you can modify how it happens, and you can even modify consent, right? Whereas you can actually modify to say that a sim might not always be agreeable to having sex, or that you need to have a certain level of romance or friendship or whatever. Or you could just make it be like, nah, just go wild. Everyone has sex with whoever they want, right? And honestly, that's a whole like other vibe of it, whatever, right? Now, when I was using doing some research for Wicked Whims, um, one of the things that I noticed was the prevalence of Wicked Whims and how it almost is, to a weird extent, an open secret.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's why I say this. When I made that video and I just commented on Wicked Whims, the predominant comments were women, identifying women, okay,
Okay.
who use Wicked Whims.
Mhm.
Okay. And more often than not, other comments were like, "Oh, I would never use that," or like that only weirdos use that, or some kind of disparaging comment. Okay. And that led me to realize something crazy. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, Wicked Whims is a framework, Stasi, and that animators need to make the animations
Absolutely.
for the Wicked Whims. Okay. Now, as a comparison, I want to tell you that MCC framework made by
Mhm.
Deaderpool, which every simmer uses, okay, well, people who use mods, um, has been downloaded 3 million times on
Jesus.
CurseForge, okay?
Oh my
Now,
God.
I can't tell you the full download rate of that. I'm sure it's a bit higher than that, but that is the number that I have for that, okay?
Yeah.
3 million, okay? The four top creators of Wicked Whims content, okay? Their animation packs have been downloaded, and I'm going to start from the top to the bottom. First, we have Femdom Mania, who that's the name of the pack and also the name of the artist. And what
Yep.
they make is femdom stuff. So again, bondage and
Hmm.
and focus on femdom. 3.7 million times. Okay. Gray Nana, again, the pack is called Gray Nana. Who again, it's in the name. It's focused on like bondage and
Hmm.
submission and everything like that. Has been downloaded 7.6 million times. Okay. YR underscore SA, which is a large compilation of animations, has been downloaded 12.7 million times. Okay. And then finally, Asmodan22, who is the number one creator of Wicked Whims animations, has been downloaded 43 million times. Okay. 43 million times.
I'm
All right.
speechless. It's a lot of fucking people.
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of
So
people.
so I like to believe that much like sex and masturbation, everyone uses Wicked Whims and
Yes.
everyone denies it. Like that's my belief
And
is that.
that just like irks me though. Just like we're all
Mhm.
dirty birds.
Exactly,
Okay? Like
exactly.
it's
Mhm,
okay. It's okay to have
mhm.
wicked whims and just
Exactly,
have it and use the animations. No one is
exactly.
going to shame you.
No,
Like no
exactly.
one.
That's the weird thing. No one is going to shame you, right? The Sims community has accepted Wicked Whims. I mean, even EA has
Mhm.
accepted Wicked Whims. But unfortunately, Wicked Whim's reputation has been struggling due to bad individuals, and that's where I wanted to kind of take the conversation. At some point in the history of The Sims 4, sometime around 2018, individuals using the Wicked Whims framework began to use it to enable sex with teens and younger life ages and life stages. And that caused a bit of a backlash because suddenly we were verging on the territory of like CP and other
Yeah.
things that are solely unacceptable. And Wicked Whims itself started to have like a negative reputation, right? Now, the moment that that happened, Wicked Whims went and made sure to ban and not allow that things to be possible,
Hmm.
right? But to this day, right, Wicked Whims has had to be very forthcoming that they take sex with minors very seriously
Yep.
and that they are not related to it and they aren't related to the subject. It does not happen. Like none of that is a thing, right? With them, right? But even then, people were concerned because EA made a response and said, like, we do not condone this content. Again, this content being specifically minors, interaction with minors. It's considered bannable,
Yes.
right? And that was construed with Wicked Whims that, oh, you can be banned by using Wicked Whims, you know?
Okay.
And I think that that has always permeated because I do think people think that Wicked Whims is unsafe to use. That if you use Wicked Whims, you can be banned, or if you use Wicked Whims, it might have a virus or something like that, right? But again, EA has responded multiple times that Wicked Whims is free to be used. It will not ban you. You're free to use it. Everything's fine with that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that has been historically kind of the drama that Wicked Whims unfortunately has had to deal with. You know, I think there are gross people on the internet,
Yes.
and gross people on the internet are always going to take advantage of being gross on the internet. But honestly, at the end of the day, Wicked Whims really is about sexual expression. Now, to really talk about like the full extent of this, okay? Um, the animation gallery for Wicked Whims is ridiculous.
Yep.
Like, there is so much work that has
Yeah.
gone into like sex animations for The Sims 4. Um, it's just crazy, right? Like every kind of sexual expression that you can think of, whether it's male to female, female to female, male to male, blah blah blah, like all trio, duo, like orgies,
Yeah.
like whether it's BDSM, like everything you can think of is present. And I think personally, I it kind of makes me laugh a little bit sometimes because The Sims is so clunky and to
Hmm.
just see like someone like pile driving another person's face into the ground with their penis is just like the funniest thing.
Or the choppy dancing on a pole dancer that doesn't get you on? What?
Honestly,
Their hand just goes through the pole, their head's like
exactly.
on the ground. You're like, that's not doing
Yes.
it for you, God.
No, yeah, sometimes it goes, honestly, sometimes it goes freaking crazy on that regard. But that being said, like um I was really sad because there was like a brief window at because again, I stream on Twitch. There was a brief window where Twitch basically said like nudity and sex is okay as long as it's like from a game, right?
Okay.
So I was like super excited because I was like, oh hell, like I can use Wicked Whims on Twitch, and that's totally cool, right? And like, and again, not to like fetishize sexual acts, but it's just interesting. It's like randomly like hardcore sex on like random characters is just funny, or like interesting or whatever, right? But unfortunately, Twitch like backed off after a day, and they were like, "No, we're not going to let you do that." So unfortunately, it's not something that we can enjoy or anything like that, right? But um, I think where we see Wicked Whims the most, and I think where we see it most impressively, is in creators who focus on like R-rated
Yes.
content, right? Um, and again, I love to see how they use it. I think probably one of the ones that I'm most familiar with is Lex. I don't know if you've ever met Lex. She's a content creator, and she makes specifically like historical stories for The Sims, where again, a lot of her is it's sexual expression of her
Mhm.
characters or whatever. And I remember seeing it and I was like surprised because like she writes these stories into what are these like very real sexual acts. And from following other people that follow her, I saw other individuals who do things like that as well. Like I'll find creators who will have like bondage pictures on Instagram of their Sims characters. And again, I love that kind of sexual expression. I think that that's important and healthy.
Yes.
And I really want to see that kind of like expanded on and really taken to the next step. Now, I think we talked a little bit about Rule 34.
100%.
Yeah, all right. But here's something that a lot of people might not know. Okay. Now, I say this is gonna out me hard, all right, but I need to talk about it. But I have Googled Rule 34 of different video games and stuff in the past. I might have been interested in such a thing in the past, right?
Yes.
Um, and I've actually noticed that there's a whole ass category of Sims 4 sex on
Yes.
porn sites. Like
Uh,
just on
Literally Pornhub. If you type in The Sims, you will have Sims porn. I have watched it. As like I'm not I'm
like
not I'm not gonna tell you, like I am an avid porn watcher. I that
sure, sure,
get
sure.
that gets me on. And there's sometimes
Sure.
where I'm like, I want to see the crazy shit I can find.
No,
Type
absolutely
in
no.
Sims for BDSM.
Hmm.
Your
Hmm.
Friday night is gonna get hilarious.
No, absolutely. I think that that's incredible. I love the fact that they take that and again, it's like a separate layer to it because again, you can take characters from other stories and make them into Sims characters. Again, in your head canon, make sure that they're adults and everything's fine. And then you can make them have sex, and then again, it's like a fantasy thing, right? That makes total sense. Like if you want to have like Frodo and Sam finally achieve their true gay lover status, which is what they totally are, then just make them have sex in The Sims, and you're fine. You know what I mean? Like that's just again, that's the kind of expression that I want to see you
Yes.
know? Um, and it was surprising to kind of see that. Now, this one was great, Stassi. I don't know how much you know about this, but just recently, the Wicked Whims creator, Turbo Driver, has actually built an integration with Lovin's. Are you familiar with Lovin's, Stassi?
I am not, unfortunately.
Okay, so Lovin's is a toy and application
Oh,
that
okay.
allows it's specifically mostly generally made for individuals with vaginas
Okay.
that is inserted and then you can control it remotely, right?
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yep. Uh-huh. As soon as I knew what the product was, didn't know the name of it. That is
yeah.
absolutely incredible. Where do I sign up?
So it's just integrated into it. So now when you have your Sims have sex, you can be self-pleasured by your Lovin's toy. So you can, I mean, you just need a VR headset and you're there. Like
Oh,
that's all you need and you're good to go. But it is a real thing. Like they've actually set that up. Supposedly it works well. Individuals have tried it. Go to Twitter. They talk about it there. But I think that that is an incredible and also like hilarious step towards amazing new Sims frontiers, I think.
I'm actually speechless because like
Yeah.
I just all I keep thinking of is like, okay, so I can make a Stassi. She can
Yep.
hook up with Jason Momoa. I have this. I'm actually
Yes.
having sex with Jason Momoa.
That's exactly how
Okay,
that works.
cool. So what's the website for this?
It's actually now just part of Wicked Whims.
Oh,
Like it is like
perfect.
default. Yeah, and I think that you have to just download an animation pack that is compatible to use it. But yeah, it is it I was amazed.
Yeah.
Like so when I went to check it out, and in fact here, let me pull up Turbo Driver's Twitter. All right. And again, this is all public information, right? But an individual posted on here, let's see, it was Sammy, okay, which I think is a OnlyFans creator. Yeah, absolutely is an OnlyFans creator. Already saw way more than her than I wanted to just now. But she said, I just tried out the Lovin's X Wicked Whims update. It was a lot of fun, probably the best for edging, as it would go off 3 to 5 seconds at a time. So that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's a thing, right?
Yeah.
So now people can start, trying that out. And I just thought, like, I saw that and I was like, I need to talk about it. Like, I thought it was incredible. You know what
Yes.
I mean? So I'm really excited to see how that expands or whatever. I mean, VR and The Sims is something that I don't think has been fully expressed or realized just yet. I know it has like the first person mode or something like that.
Yeah, it has
You
first
know?
person, and that's how a lot of like storytellers take
Hmm.
their pictures. Okay,
Hmm.
but like let's dive into VR. If
Hmm.
Sims was available on VR, you
Hmm.
put your VR headset on, would you do
Hmm.
it?
Yes, I
Really?
would. Yes.
I'm a solid no.
Tell
I
me
am
why.
su well, I can't do VR anyways because I'm one of those people who has vertigo, so I
Sure.
have to wear glasses. And as you wear glasses,
Yeah.
there's just the perception I just
Hmm.
can't stand.
Okay, got it.
I've always had negative VR. However,
Hmm.
I'm a pretty vanilla game player. So like
Okay,
I'm not
sure.
gonna sit here and say like I do all the cool shit. I don't. So like to
Okay.
me, it would be like a fun I would do it once or twice, or if I was at
Mhm.
someone's house that had the ability to, like, if I ever came to your house and you had it, I would for sure try it. But I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna stick to my mom answer an email laptop on the couch because that's just what my gameplay allows currently. I can't
Yeah.
speak 10 years from now if I'm like, yeah, let's take this when Sims 6 is out and it's all like fucking in our VR headsets. It's like the metaverse or whatever.
So yeah, so let me pose this question to you. All
Sure.
right. So first and foremost, I think that one thing that people often get like not confused, and I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but there's a difference between like VR and AR, which is like augmented reality,
Okay, yeah.
right? And I think that augmented reality is probably the way to go. Like, like Apple's new Vision Pro or whatever,
Yeah.
that's augmented reality,
Okay.
where the way it works is that basically you put on the headset and it doesn't like redraw the world. You just see everything around you, but then it'll add like a pop-up. And actually I saw some, this is total like a tangent, but with the Vision Pro,
Mhm.
imagine being able to look at all your pots and being able to assign individual timers to each pot that you're
Interesting.
cooking, and it just sits on top of it. So you can have like a little timer on top of one pot that says, oh, we're ready in 5 minutes, and you have another timer that says ready in 3 minutes, and you could just multitask like a motherfucker because you're just going back and forth, like just being able to see everything. Like that's incredible to me, especially someone with like OCD and ADHD and stuff like that. That's crazy for me. But VR, right, virtual reality,
Mhm.
think about it like this. Imagine you are able to build your house in The Sims
Yes.
exactly how it is.
Okay.
Okay. But then you tell yourself, you know what? I wonder what purple wallpaper would look like. So
Yes.
then you change it. You put on your VR headset and you're able to see your house exactly how it is. You're able to put your, like, in your, if you place your hand on your desk, you will feel as if you're touching your desk in The Sims. And you'll be able to see the purple wallpaper and you'd be able to go, okay, you know what? I like this, right? So you're not necessarily spatially disoriented because everything would be exactly where you put it. And in fact, someone has done that. Someone has used VR to recreate their entire house exactly how it is, meaning that every desk is exactly the right distance away, every plant, everything. And what they do is that they just change stuff thematically to look different. Like they'll change their house into like a grunge house, or they'll change their house to like a pastel pop house, but everything
Mhm.
will be exactly the same. And they'll be able to be in VR, but within that. Or like imagine creating your house in The Sims on like a bright sunny day when
Yep.
it's actually stormy. You know what I mean? So you can just put on your VR headset and feel as if it's like a nice sunny day when it's actually horrible outside. Is again, ignoring the vertigo thing, that's how you could really
Yeah.
expand on it, you know?
We just
That's how
have
I
to we just have to cure vertigo.
exactly. We just have to cure
We
vertigo.
just
That
have
would
to
be number one.
curb vertigo
Exactly,
and
exactly.
yeah, I've done VR several times. I'm like,
No,
good.
yeah, I'm the same way. I get dizzy and especially like 3D glasses used to always make me dizzy as well and everything like that. So I definitely know that. Um, I like the idea of VR in order to expand
Yeah.
on life as it is, right? Um, so and since we're talking about like sex in
Mhm.
particular with Wicked Whims, and again using the Levins app, I think sex in VR is like a whole new thing. Like they've actually built like VR applications where they've literally built like sex toys to use both people for with penises or vaginas and whatever is being simulated in the VR is replicated to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and you know that if The Sims had VR, that would be the next day, that's what would be released.
Oh,
Like literally
100%.
24 hours later, it'd be like Wicked Whims VR version is
Baby,
enabled.
you think it would take 24 hours? That's like a
Yeah.
12 hours max.
Exactly. No, you're right. People would just like all like the greatest minds in the world would converge for
Yes.
this one specific thing. No, absolutely. Now, in in your experience with Wicked Whims, would you say that like the animation stuff that you explored were like vanilla for lack of a better word, or did you go like more hardcore route and kind of get crazy with it?
I would say it's pretty vanilla.
Okay.
So I downloaded Wicked Whims like
Mhm.
back in 2019.
Okay.
I didn't even know what Wicked Whims really was. I was just looking into poses and I was like, oh, like you get Wicked Whims. Like you have the
Mhm.
ability to put all these poses in.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I download it, and
Mhm.
the first thing I notice is Briar, who's an older lyric character, had saggy boobs. She was getting out of this shit, saggy totters to the floor. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, what the fuck is that? Because I didn't realize I thought like I would have like a minute of gauge to like
Mhm.
turn the modesty a little bit on.
Mhm.
Um, and then Oliver was like peeing, and I like saw his ding dong, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. I like slammed my laptop lid down. I was like,
Mhm.
no, and I got rid of it.
Oh God. Yeah, that's okay. I hear you on that one. Um, did you know that like Wicked Whims actually has a super complicated framework of things that expand way past just sex?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It has the menstrual
The menstrual
cycle and
cycle
the
is
birth control.
yep.
Like it went into more, and that was like another thing. So like Lex is like a young adult and she like had her period and was a moody bitch. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. I have like 2 hours to like
Mhm.
bang out a chapter. Like I can't have you have acne on your face. Yeah, so like I know there's a lot more that does go into it just besides adding penises and
Mhm.
cookies. But
It also has crabs.
yes, STIs. It's like what's feeding?
Oh my God.
No,
Oh, that's
go
crazy.
go get your Z pack, my friend. Get that
Exactly.
bacteria.
Exactly. Oh, I saw that and I was just amazed. Like, oh my God. Like that was a whole nother thing. And talking about that, Stassi, I think that was so when I mentioned earlier, I mentioned Kinky World for The Sims 3.
Yes.
Um, one of the things that I hate is how often sexual content will get lumped in with like drug content into one, right?
Yeah.
Kinky World was like that, where it introduced like sex and then also drug use and drug abuse and things like that, right? And I think that that's really like kind of messed up because it's not fair to put those two worlds together, right? I understand kind of why they're doing it from like their perspective or whatever, but And I know that's probably like a whole nother podcast that you'd want to do because there's actually a specific mod for like drug usage. I forget the name of it now. It's something in my head. People are gonna kill me for not remembering. But there's a whole nother mod for that. Um, and again, I'm glad that Wicked Whims just does this one specific thing, but they cover every single kink that you can possibly think of, and that
Yeah.
I think is crazy. Like I love that. I love that so much.
Okay, I gotta throw it around.
Yeah.
How much do you play Wicket Whims often? If so, how far do you go? Are you vanilla, kind of like me, seeing a a 10-inch penis, and you're like, what the fuck is that? Good day, sir. Nobody needs that.
Right? No, I took every impulse in the world, Stassi, for me not to go. That's my everyday, Stassi. So I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I managed to hold that one
Oh,
in.
okay. I'm glad you held it in. You kept that composure in.
No, but okay, so I do use Wicked Whims often, and I use it in my regular gameplay.
Okay.
All right. However, I would say um I would say that I would probably use it more for like um self pleasure. Like I would probably do it in like in lieu of porn.
Okay.
I would like load up The Sims and be like, oh, I'm interested in like exploring this because it gives you like because you know how when you go look for porn, you're like, oh, I want to look at like this specific thing. Like you
Yes,
have like this one mind, like, oh, I'm gonna look at this or whatever. In
absolutely.
The Sims, I could just kind of do it myself. You know what I mean? And I could like choose the angles and all these kind of things like that, right? So that's probably how I personally use it. I'd love to use it on stream for the purposes again of just having it be a little bit more chaotic because there's again nothing more chaotic than that. But unfortunately, I can't. But I do use a lot. I would say that I'm only really started using it for the last couple of months, but I've followed its history and its story for a very long time and kind of kept up with it. And for me, like I said, it used to be like when I first heard about it, I used to think it was like this, like, oh, don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't mention it. Like it's just like, oh, just, shh, only
Okay, but
weirdos.
isn't that just sex in general though? Like
Yeah, no, that's true.
it's a hidden secret that everybody does it.
Yeah,
And
no,
then
absolutely.
people are confused to like because like the first like when we have sex as when the age you are ready,
Mhm.
whatever age you think you are, you think it's this magical experience. You are hot garbage, my friends, for the first couple
Exactly.
because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
especially for women who have a hard time finding
mhm,
pleasure in it because
yeah,
they don't know what it's like to explore because as a woman we are not actually not
mhm.
taught how to you know be a little DJ uh
Exactly. You have
but
to figure it out.
we have to figure it out, right? And I mean like
Yeah.
women get hurt trying to stick objects anything that they can
Yes.
find because
Mhm.
it's not really taught safely, and then you're really shunned as a girl liking porn. I
Yeah, that's 100% true. And the same goes again for at least myself growing up for men or male presenting. Um, we all assumed as kids that like at least for boys that everyone else got their copy of like the vagina in the mail except for you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everyone knew how to do everything except for you. You were the one in the complete dark or whatever. There's actually this great book from John Green
Okay.
called Looking for Alaska. All right, it's a young adult novel. Um, but I love it so much because in that book he actually represent and it's been banned in certain conservative places because of this. But in the book, he actually represents um, two instances of romance between like 17-year-olds or whatever, right? Again, young, but the purposes of the book
Hmm.
in one, he represents like like coitus or like cunnilingus or whatever,
Yep.
and it's robotic. It's not sexy at all. It's very like whatever, and he represents it purposely like that. And then in the next scene, it's two individuals who are just holding hands and just being intimate, and that's much more intimate. And his whole purpose of writing that was to basically show that intimacy and sex are kind of like not the same thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, And like, of course, people blew up and they're like, "Oh my God, you have like sex in this book that you can find in the library. I can't believe it." And John Green was like, "Really, guys? Are we just gonna like ignore what it is I was writing?" Like, yeah, it's really bad.
That just irks me. I mean,
No,
but
it.
this is a topic I really actually do want to address in season three is like
Mhm.
properly sex education that needs to be
Oh yeah.
brought back like into the
Mhm.
educational sector and
Mhm.
taught right instead
Yeah.
of taught wrong. You're
No.
like I know you're in the States, it's a little
Mhm.
different of what can and cannot be taught versus
Mhm.
what it is specifically in my province of Ontario.
Yeah.
But this is definitely another topic for another
No,
day.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest lies that we were fed as children, because like growing up,
Mhm.
right, I would hear from so many friends and family like, "Oh, we're trying to have a baby. We're trying to have a baby. We're trying to have a baby." Having children is actually not the easiest thing in the world. It's
Nope.
difficult. But like growing up, it was like you have sex once and that's it, you're pregnant. Like you're pregnant, like
Oh,
that's it.
pregnant and AIDS, and you're gonna die.
Exactly. Like here, that's it. It just takes once and your life is over. Like they feed you the wrong information. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think that's definitely a conversation that I think your community would love to have and to talk about because that's a
Mhm.
whole another kind of bag of bones there. But
Yes.
yeah, wicked whims.
But
No,
like,
but go ahead.
sorry, no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, 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 please, please, please.
I was gonna say, like, I know there's a lot of stigma around
Mhm.
Wickedwhims, the kind of what we talked about, but
Mhm.
honestly, at the storyteller community, it is second to none is the best mod. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I've had a lot of people, even I'm like a little, I've gone on being like, I don't personally need it because my storytelling, I would never make it 18A. That's
sure.
just in my mind, it's a young adult novel. So like it's
Yeah.
always like side boob and hands on the sheet and
Sure.
hand on the window. And like
Yeah.
that simulates it.
Mhm.
But there are so many amazing storytellers out there that put those scenes in, and it would be impossible to do. I really do wish that The Sims would have an 18A expansion pack. To verify, you have to be 18 to have it. I mean, we are adults. We have sex.
Yeah.
It's a huge factor in our life. Not everybody has it. Not everybody has the need to do it. However, it's a kid's game, and this makes it like more real life, but I would love to see EA try to do a version of Wicked Whims. But at the same time, I think they would just ruin it and make it too cartoony. Um,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the things that I hate is that again, when it comes to The Sims,
mhm.
I have a fairly large community behind me, right? Again, not
Yes,
not like humble bragging. But of that community, it is predominantly, 21 and older. Like it
yes,
is older individuals, right? I have a very small community of young people, right?
yes,
So what I don't get is that it's so strange to me that we're all a bunch of adults being like, oh yeah, woohooing is great. Like the word woohoo is so infantilized as a word. You know what I
yes,
mean? Like,
absolutely.
so the fact that we're all being like, oh yeah, you just have to have woohoo, like risky woohoo. Like it's so childish,
Yes.
and I think it's continuing to kind of push that kind of thought process. And again, I would love to see the Sims do that, but I think the Sims team has properly um, basically said like we're giving other individuals the tools to
Yes,
do just that. And I think Wicked Whims has done that.
I
You
agree.
know, what I would love for the Sims to do is to take creators like Turbo Driver, Twisted
Mhm.
Mexi specifically,
Yes,
right? And Deaderpool, like the three core like tool makers, and officially endorse them.
I
Like
agree.
bring them into EA and say like, hey guys, like we're gonna meet with you all, and we're gonna have like a summit, and we're gonna like give you extra access to fix the mods as soon as things come out, and like make them feel like they're vital. And I think
Hmm.
that that's the mistake. And again, this is a whole separate conversation, but In The Sims 3 and The Sims 2, there was a creator called Pescado, right?
Yes.
Um, and I think it's a he, made a ton of content, right? And then the Sims team never acknowledged him, like ever, ever, right? And when The Sims 4 came out, they were just like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not into it or whatever. And that was the end of an incredibly important creator there, right? Um, Twisted Mexi is single-handedly like I don't know again not to confuse this conversation, but there's like a whole mod thing happening right now, Stassi, where like mods
Oh
are
yeah.
like trading and just
Bellwire. Oh, oh
yeah
yeah, yeah. Oh, I may not play every day, but I do see you guys
yeah
hanging out online.
exactly exactly. So Twisted Mexi has single-handedly been building mods to like combat that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like those are the kind of creators that you want to at least support and back. You know what I mean? And Wicked Whims is one of them. If you're not going to build it, then at least sponsor somebody to do it. Say like we like boom, you could do that. You know what I mean? Like
Right. But I
yeah,
mean, we've both worked for like a corporate company. They will
yeah.
never do that,
No,
no
that's
matter
right.
what
Yeah,
they do, because
yeah,
all it takes is one little misprint, and then
yeah.
they're so
Exactly.
scared of
Yeah,
being
or
canceled.
one yeah, or one like bad tweet from the creator, one hot take,
One
you
hot
know,
take.
and then
Yep.
yeah,
Then
and
they're
then
done.
that's it.
Right.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
Yes.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, do you have
Mhm.
anything else, my friend?
No, honestly, I feel like we've really expanded on it. I feel like there's so much that we probably couldn't cover because it's a visual medium of actual like people having sex. But again, I love the fact that again there's so much to Wicked Whims. Like if hardcore sex isn't your thing, please explore it because they have like sensual sex,
Yeah.
half sex, like you know PG-13 sex. Like they have all kinds of animations that fit what you want. Don't think that the moment you download Wicked Whims, you're automatically in like the Pornhub section of things. You know what I mean? You could literally go in there and get exactly what you feel comfortable with. And honestly, it's a good experience. And I think I believe in sexual expression,
Hmm.
and I believe in if you want to see how that fits for you, by all means, do that because there's nothing worse in this world than sexual oppression because that leads to bad things.
Absolutely. And I think that is very well said. And I think it's a perfect place to cap it off. Gons, thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your knowledge, and especially since it's Love Day.
Yeah,
It's a
love day. Happy love
perfect
day.
day to, experience love, and not only experience love for yourself as
Exactly.
at the same time. Well,
Exactly.
Gons, thank you so much for coming. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Mynameisgonz.
Amazing. Again, thank you for coming here today. Thank you for doing a one-on-one. It
No,
was
of course.
it
Happy to
was
do
fu
it.
it was fun. Well, everyone, please go check out Gons. I'm actually gonna have the link below. If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I really want to get Wicked Whims, please check out the link. Please note I am not sponsored in any way for Wicked Whims. This is just a love of a good mod. I do not think this mod was affected by the mods that
It was
had
not.
come. It was not.
That's
So it is safe to download. You will not get a virus, even though your
right.
mom said that you'll get a virus if you have sex unprotected. Not
Yeah,
gonna come from Wicked Whims. So please go check that out, especially if you're a storyteller and you want, honestly, just for teleporting your sim to a specific pose. Any storytellers out there that use the teleport mod, this does take it to the next level, and it's really easy. And it does also gets rid of the creepy head turn. That's for my posers out there that know that creepy head turn. You're like, ah, my Sims are possessed. But thank you, Gons, again for coming. Please check out Wicked Whims. If you like this podcast, please consider liking and subscribing as the season actually is coming to an end, kiddos. Very excited to finally be wrapping up this chapter and season. I'm also really excited. So on Instagram today, I did announce that I am working on a short film, and the casting list came out today, and Gons is in it
yeah.
as a little character in there. So Gon, thank you so much for
Mhm.
wanting to be part of that.
Of
I'm
course.
it's an absolute honor to add Machinima director to the amazing things I've done in this community. So please stay tuned for that. Um, I have a story in The Sims called The Rose Chronicles. New chapters out every week. I'm very much enjoying that. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where my love's going to be for the next couple months. But don't worry, there will be occasional podcasts here and there. More will be announced next week. But happy Love Day, everyone.
Good love day.
Happy Love Day. Well, have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.